Hi everyone, it's Christina here. I'm 8 times certified Salesforce professional, and today I wanted to take some time to talk more about Pardot Lists. So this will be a very freestyle video. We'll jump straight
It's
into
17 hours.
and let's explore all the options that Pardot offers us and what we can actually do and achieve with Pardot Lists. So let's start by going to pardot.org. And first thing that we see when we log in is obviously Pardot dashboard. To access Pardot lists, we'll need to navigate to this magic stick over here, or if we expand, potentially you have expanded menu and you're gonna see lists like that. So I'm gonna go to marketing, I'm gonna scroll down to segmentation, and I'm gonna click on the lists. So here you'll be able to see all the lists you have, or you're gonna see none if you don't have any. What is good to know, by default you have these 5 filters over here. So by default it will be selected and you're gonna see all your current lists. And additionally you will be able to filter and see lists by their types. So this probably already gives you an idea that in Pardot we have dynamic lists, we have test lists, and then these are 2 additional options. All archive lists will be put in this segmented option if you're gonna set an archive date for the list, and that's really great to do, especially if you want to hide a list from the browsing main screen from the users, to make sure users don't reuse lists that you don't want them to use after a specific time. And then we have obviously some inactive dynamic lists. If there are no new prospects entering a list based on a specific criteria that you have specified in that list, it will be automatically put in this inactive dynamic list. And then you'll be able to basically see potentially some out-of-date lists. Then if you'll be selecting one or more lists, you're gonna see down here it says with to selected. So Pardot gives us an option to add tags, delete, move to folder, remove tags. So potentially if you bulk created a couple of lists, you want to apply some tags, whether potentially these tags involve any region specific tags like EMEA, America, Asia, Pacific, etc. Or you want to remove some tags. Maybe you want to add them to a specific folder so the right users can access right lists. If you have created a specific folder access based on the roles in your org, or you can delete lists as well. And then great to know, obviously at the moment by default it will be always showing 5. But you can change this setting. You can show 10, 15, 20, 25. I usually like to set it to show 50, basically show me all. So in just one go, I can see and access more lists. So now let me click on add new list in Pardot, and it will open this pop-up for me. So in this moment, I actually want to raise a one key point, what I think is really important, and it is I believe every business should have a naming convention, internal naming convention that is used by all internal teams, specifically maybe for this purpose, a marketing team who is actually using this product. And by having a naming convention that everybody internally follows, it will allow you to easily determine which are still valid lists, which lists belong to whom, and then obviously it will make your housekeeping much more easier, and long term you will be able to, I guess, get rid of the old lists and be able to repurpose or refolder lists that you still want to have. And at this moment, I guess I wanted to demonstrate a tool that I use myself. So what I like to do and what I always advise businesses is obviously to have either it's internal naming convention that you follow, or maybe potentially it can be a tool like this, for example, where you pre-create values that employees should select every time to be able to create meaningful names for the business. So it can be business areas, it can be countries, it can be departments, whatever is valuable information piece for you. then by selecting obviously all these options and types, or either potentially not selecting all of them at every time, it can be really time or event specific. They can really create meaningful names, also even by specifying the file type. This will really help everyone to understand what this file is for, when it was created, what is the meaning, and for how long potentially you should keep this file in your system. And by automatically just selecting these options and then pasting this specific file here, I guess it will simplify the decision making for your employees to understand what file they should be using. And I guess this will make your org more organized. So then obviously you will need to select a specific folder where this file should reside. You can add any specific tags, and let's say in my case it will be EMEA. And then let's look at these list options. So we have email test list. So what is email test list? You can create a specific list for every team, and every time somebody will be creating a draft newsletter, a draft email, an announcement, they can send this email to this specific test list or to multiple test lists for other people internally to sense check the content and see, and potentially even try clicking on all the links to make sure everything is working. So this would be the purpose of creating email test list. The next list option is dynamic list, and this is probably the most popular list type that you will be using. And dynamic lists are the same. For example, in Marketo, they're called smart lists. So these are the lists that you create based on the specific criteria you specify. And the criteria that you specify is based on all the fields and field values that you have in Pardot. And we're going to explore that list later on in this video. Then, as earlier I mentioned, we can set an archive date. So this is very valuable if you are creating lists that are one time off, or your employees are able to use these lists during the specific quarter or only until specific time. So this is a very great opportunity to set a specific archive date to make sure afterwards by default this list will be removed from their view. Then if you're using Pardot Preference Center, that is default preference center that you can use and set up. It's not very user-friendly and I guess visually appealing, but as a quick start, potentially this is something you went with. And if you need to create specific dedicated lists to appear in your preference center for users to opt in, this will be the list option you will be selecting. And when you actually select this option, you will need to give it a label. So this will be the main label, for example, newsletter, product updates, things like that. Then you will give a description for your list. This will also be a piece of information that users see. So you potentially want to specify if it's a newsletter. You can specify we send newsletter bi-weekly or weekly or monthly, so the prospect more understands what they're opting in for. And then if you have more than one preference center, you will be able to select obviously and see these multiple preference center options over here. And then we have CRM Visibile. So potentially you have a sales team that can opt in automatically people into the list from within Salesforce. This can potentially happen during their sales call or any other activity. So then you can make this CRM visible so people can also opt people in from within Salesforce. Obviously, there's a lot of GDPR conversations maybe already striking in your head, and I'm not going to go into this topic deeper in this specific video. So now let's explore more the dynamic list option. I'm going to click on this checkbox. It will going to give me the option set rules. So on the top, I'm going to have basic information. So if I'm going to click on basic information, it will obviously open the first pop-up options that appeared to me, and I can potentially relabel it or put it into other folder if I change my mind. And as well here I have the gear icon, and I can delete this list if something in case went wrong. So then I have these two options over here, match all or match any. So match all will be all the rules that we set here. See, it's like end and end, meaning if I set these three different rules, this means prospect will need to match all of these three criteria to actually enter into dynamic list. If I change this to match any, you can set three different rules. And what we are saying here is that prospect can match either this, or this rule. And if they meet any of the rules that we set there, they will enter the list. So it really depends on you. So what are the options that we have here? So it's really a big pick list, and there's a lot of things we can discuss and talk about. So first thing first, prospect CRM campaign. So this is the option where you can select contains, doesn't contain, or is. So CRM campaign, either maybe you have specific also naming convention inside your Salesforce, and maybe it is all campaigns that contain ad or paid ad, include these people in this list, or maybe doesn't contain specific word, or if you select is, it will open a specific pop-up and it will gonna demonstrate and pre-fill basically all campaigns that you actually exactly have in your org. The next option is CRM campaign and status. So this will be the same, where you can select your CRM campaign, and then additionally you will be able to specify the status. So maybe these are obviously default statuses in Salesforce, maybe you have any other statuses or more statuses, so you will be able to see and dynamically pull in people that are in this campaign with this specific status. The next option is prospect CRM status. This is very simple. Either they're contact, either they're lead, or either they're deleted. So maybe you want to see only leads in your list or only contacts. Then prospect, this is related to a specific account that has additionally lookup or a lookup relationship or master lookup relationship to any custom object. Then we have prospect account fields. By default, I just have here all the standard fields, but you can also create custom fields for the account inside Pardot, and then you will be able to filter prospects based on their account values. Have assigned queue, basically see all the leads that belong to a specific queue and maybe put them in a specific re-nurture program. Prospects assigned to a user. This will automatically display all the users that you have in your Pardot, and all the people that will belong to that specific user that are assigned to that specific user will appear. Prospect assignment status. So this again is assigned or is not assigned. So this comes back to every time somebody captures your form, if you don't have any automation rules or completion actions on your form, prospect will be unassigned, meaning it will only remain in Pardot, and until you assign this prospect to a specific user, it will be still only in Pardot. Once you assign it, it will be pushed and synced with CRM. Again, question based on your connector setup. Prospect campaign. In this specific org, I still have also Pardot campaigns enabled, so we don't have connected campaigns set up in this org. This specifically allows me to select any Pardot specific campaign, and either it is a specific campaign that I have in my org, it contains, doesn't contain, or isn't this specific campaign. Prospect custom field. So whenever we create any custom fields in our org and they have any specific values, so either it contains, doesn't contain, is, isn't, begin with, ends with, is empty, is not empty, is greater than, is less than, is between. So these are all the options that we get for a pick list. And if we select is, we can type in the specific value. Prospect custom object. So my org is actually enabled. I have purchased an add-on custom objects. By default, basic Pardot.org doesn't actually come with custom objects, but you can purchase that as an add-on, and if you have, you'll be able to select any custom objects and then those custom objects fields and filter your dynamic lists based on these criteria. Then prospect custom redirect. So in Pardot you can create custom redirect URLs, and you can specifically specify if any of the prospects have clicked on that link, please add them to this list. Prospect default field is the prospect lead or contacts field, so you can select any of these. Prospect email. So obviously, because Pardot is tracking prospect activity, you can select whether show me all prospects that have opened email in the last 4 days or in the last 4 weeks or hasn't opened email. So this is great option when you're actually creating a suppression list. So maybe you want to say if prospect has already opened 2 emails in the past week, let's not send him this specific email. So this really helps to prevent kind of over blasting or over bombarding people with your emails. Then prospect email status is or isn't opted out or do not email. So if I want to see all people that hard bounce, I would create a prospect email status is opted out and prospect email status is do not email. So by having these 2 criteria, this will show me all people that are hard bounced. So obviously you can create this dynamic list and then go through all people that hard bounced or are unmailable and potentially you want to remove them from your org. Then the next option is prospect file. So if you upload any specific PDFs or white papers, etc., and you want to create a dynamic list based on the people who actually have viewed specific file, so this would be great if you're creating any nurture programs and you want to re-nurture all those people that maybe open specific documents or files that you are sharing with them. This will be a very good option. Then prospect form, so you can select show me all people that captured this specific form, and then based on that specific form, maybe that was your event specific form. If all those people captured that specific form, maybe you want to send them a quick update that event will be delayed or not delayed, so whatever was the purpose of your form. And then as well we have form handler, so this will be the same. When we will be talking about forms and form handlers, we're going to talk about this more, but basically in Pardot you can create 2 types of forms. One is form that is built and is like an iframe, and then we have form handler, what is basically just pure HTML that your website developers can just take in and paste it on your website. Then we have prospect grade, so you can potentially say show me all prospects with a grade greater than B. So potentially you want to create like a very hot list with all people prospects that meet your business agenda to convert them as a customers or whatever is the purpose. So you can use prospects grade to create lists. Prospect has been emailed. So this is also very good to use as a suppression list or sending lists to not overblast people. So prospect has been emailed 5 times in the last 10 days. You create a dynamic list like that. It will be automatically populated with all the people that meet the criteria. And when you're sending your new blast, you can add this as a suppression list to make sure these people don't receive, again, another email from you. Then prospects landing page, again, was successfully completed, was viewed or wasn't viewed. So you can create a specific, again, list with all the people that did or did not do any action around your landing page and blast them further if required. Prospect list, so you can create show me all people that are part of this list, and this list, and then potentially you want to re-nurture them again or exclude them. Prospect opportunity, so related to, so if you add maybe multiple prospects to one specific opportunity, or you want to use this as just an additional criteria, you can do so. Also, we can use opportunity fields. We can use opportunity statuses, so potentially show me all people with currently active opportunities, or show me all people with lost opportunities and maybe you want to re-nurture them. Prospect profile, so by default we will all gonna have default profiles with our new orgs, but you can create multiple profiles. Let's say it can be like customer profile, consultant profile, internal profile, and based on these profiles you can grade people differently. Then prospect public list opt-in, so opted in, opted out, so you can select and specify whether prospect is opted in or opted out from any of your preference center lists. Prospect query, so this is not a very popular feature of Pardot, but if you use prospect queries and you use this feature of Pardot, you can use that. Prospect score, you can say show me all people with score greater than 100 or least than 50 or in between. So this is great if you want to target specific people that are almost ready to become marketing qualified lead, or whatever is the purpose that you are aiming for. Prospect scoring category, so if you're a business that have multiple products, multiple brands, so for every product you can create its own scoring. So for example, if somebody is interested in premium, maybe you want to, for the same functionality or the same action, you want to give them a higher score. Or if it's like a lower value product, maybe you want to uplift score with a least amount of points. So you can do that based on the Pardot scoring categories. Then this is something that I really like to do. I always try to tag all my prospects, my emails, and all the things that I do here. So for me, it's very easy to pull actually very segmented people. And additionally, if I have marked all my investors or all my internal employees, I can easily actually create a list with all internal employees and make sure I potentially exclude them from my mailing lists. I guess not to distract them with all the marketing emails or whatever are the tags. Potentially you maybe tag all your EMEA prospects or Asia prospects, and you want to exclude them and include them. So tags are a really great feature to use within org. They can really help you to create these additional segmented lists. Then visitor Google Analytics parameter. So obviously if you connect your Pardot with your Google Analytics, you can pull these UTM parameters in your org, and maybe you want to see all people that came to you from your blog or from your banner or from your third-party website, whatever it can be. So you can use that to create segmented audience. And then the last thing is visitor host name. So you can use and specify obviously any specific domains, and it will pull these people through. Let's select just any of the options. I'll just go for the default field country, and I'm just gonna delete these. Country contains UK, or what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna demonstrate, for example, one example. Default, the same country contains United Kingdom, or prospect default field country contains I mean it can be GB. Prospect default field country contains a great Britain. So, I mean, obviously, even in this moment, I would always advise businesses to have a pick list on the website, pick list in Salesforce, pick list in Pardot. So from whatever place person is actually selecting a country for a prospect, lead, or contact or person account, it will be always exactly the same value. So you don't need to create anything like this. But this is potentially a good example. So you can say prospect that match any of these criteria that are technically the same. Please let's run these rules and let's put them in this list. Another thing that I'm going to show you, you probably saw here. So potentially before you actually save, you can run testing. So, and then you can click preview matches. So potentially before you actually hit the button save, you preview the matches, or you just can run the rules, and that way you'll be able to see. Then obviously it will take a little bit of time depending on how many prospects you have in your org. It will be quicker or a little bit slower, but obviously Pardot needs to loop through all the prospects that you have in your system to actually show you all the prospects that meet this specific criteria. And when the final result is ready, you're gonna receive an email notification in your mailbox. But then in general, in these detail list, you will gonna see all the details about your lists and all the rules. List emails, here you'll be able to see all the specific emails that were actually already sent to this list. At the moment I haven't sent any emails to this list, so here is none. You can also filter based on the campaign. And then usage. So usage would be if you use this dynamic list in your forms, in your automation rules, anywhere where it's linked, basically you actually won't be able to delete this list until you remove it from those other dependent places. So here you'll always be able to see where else this list is used, if anywhere else it is used. And then here on the top, I have edit, split, copy, and delete. So all delete, copy, edit is very intuitive, I guess. But let's talk about split. So this is a very great functionality where if you have like list of 100,000 prospects and potentially you just bought Pardot account, you don't want to send your new first email to 100,000 people already, because obviously we need to be sensible a little bit about IP warming, and we need to kind of start sending maybe to a smaller list, or maybe you want to just test your email, whatever is the thing you're trying to achieve. So you can split your lists into like 50-50, or if it's a bigger list, maybe you can split it even in more. Maybe it can be like 20 and here 30. Yeah, so you can actually split your lists into 3 other lists if you want to. So this is a very cool thing and functionality inside Pardot. So this is all I can think of in terms of the lists. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Have fun. If you have any questions, hit me up. Bye!